better with every ability, so QE, QW, QR, but QE is the most useful that you'll be doing in terms of quickly bursting your opponent. Moving on to your W. Now your W damage will be increased if you can block damage from your opponent during the channel, so if you're blocking a Riven Q3, Aatrox Q, or Q, whatever it may be, it's really important if you can react to their burst, not only to get high value from the shield, but gain extra damage as well. And like we talked about in the laning section, this is a very good ability for poking down the tower, but try not to lead with it, don't just W them on the tower unless you're bursting them, something like that. Try to poke them, try to juggle the tower aggro well, but use W to block a tower shot on the way out if you need to. Now AA into W into AA, so every ability from Mbessa feels very smooth, 2 autos in between, so make sure you're practicing that. You can W flash as well, and like we talked about in the Q section, you don't need to W hop AA, you hop AA every single time. If you want to burst your opponent very quickly, let's imagine your Q is down, something like that, you can just WE, or if it's up, WQ, W ulti. You can use your abilities very quickly thanks to each other. You don't always need a tunnel on the auto attack, but they will maximize your damage to do that most of the time. Moving on to your E. Now this is a relatively straightforward ability. Some advice on it is try to use it before your Q2, as especially now people are figuring out what Mbessa does. They are dodging Q2 more often, so if they're slowed from your E, it's a lot easier to guarantee your Q2 onto them. And again, auto attack into E into auto attack feels very smooth on this champion. You can cancel any ability, so EQ, EW, E ulti, whatever it may be. And E flash, I would say if you are taking flash, is the most useful, as you will guarantee the slow onto them, and it feels a lot harder to react to than your other abilities. Moving on to your ulti. Now, out of all of Mbessa's abilities, the number one tip by far is the fact that you can buffer your ulti through crowd control. It doesn't matter what the CC is, if you're going to get hit by a Jaxi, Malphite ulti, even if you're about to fall asleep after getting hit by a Zoe E, you can buffer your ulti through it and you won't even get CC'd at the end of the animation. Now, the next tip on this is also the second most important, is the distance from your ulti to your opponent when you hit them. There's perfect range for your Q1, and they are going to still be CC'd during the ulti animation, so you can get your Q off and they're not going to be able to flash it at all. The only time where you would R into dash is if you're about to get hit by, let's say, a Huayfear, a Zoe E, something like that on the enemy team. If you didn't ult that target, you will need to use the R dash to dodge that ability, but other than that, just make sure you R into Q to min-max your damage. Your ulti will also reveal stealth, so if you get hit a champion like a Shaco while he's invisible, you are going to reveal that for your team, so that can be important versus Kali as well, champs like that. And the tip for team fighting on the ulti, we'll talk more about that later. Try to R from Fog of War. The ulti, especially now, I'd say is relatively easy to dodge if you're thinking about it, especially a long range one. So try to R from Fog of War or try to chain CC it with your teammates. We'll talk about it a little bit in drafting, but I feel like combos like Nautilus and Professor are going to be really important, so if you do play with champs like that, you can just wait for the point click Nautilus ulti, or even if it's not point click, maybe a Leona ulti, a Lissandra combo, something like that, chain your ulti with that, it can increase your success significantly. And one extra little bonus tip for Mbessa's R is making sure you give yourself an option in your settings to normal cast this ability, so that you can see the range and aim it as high chances that it'll hit as possible. I myself use Shift and R, I find that the best, but you can use a mouse button or any other key that you like. It's just important that you have access to it, because hitting a max range R with Smart Cast can be really tricky, but having the option to Smart Cast if you want or normal cast in a hurry can be really important. Moving on to combos. Now just to clarify, so I don't have to say the word dash 500 times, every time I say auto, that's going to mean auto attack and utilizing your dash passive as well. If I don't say auto, that means using 2 abilities together. Now for your main trading combo, before you have your ulti in lane, you're going to be leading with Q1 into auto, E auto, Q2 auto, and finishing with W auto. Now because you want to be disengaging after short trading a lot, unless you're going for an all-in and killing them, making sure you're cutting backwards or finishing the trade with W, but you can actually do W anytime during this combo to get value out of the shield. So if you Q1 and they instantly jump onto you, with let's say a Jax QE, something like that, you can use your W in replace of E, in replacement for E, so that you can get high value from their shield. But most of the time, if you're trading onto your opponent and they don't have much room to fight you back, the combo will look like this, finishing off with W. Now the standard combo for an all-in with ulti is leading with ulti from max range or close range, doesn't really matter, into Q1 to the RQ1 together, making sure you're not dashing into auto attacking between R and Q1, so RQ1 into auto into E, auto W, auto Q2 auto. Now again, you can use your W anytime during this combo to get value from the shield, but finishing with Q2 can be effective because it's your longest range ability. Now as for your disengage combo, if they're jumping onto your native CC, and you do have your ulti up, so a Camille, let's say it's about to hit you, you can lead with ulti, just rip it with an ulti straight away, R into Q1 to give them, into auto E, auto W, auto Q2, and again using W whenever you need to block the damage, but buffering your R through the CC from a Riven combo, Camille, anything like that, can be a lot more effective than just tanking it with W and holding your W for a later point on that trade. Moving on to her quick combo. Now this one's really important, especially if your opponent's already low HP, so if they get CC'd by something else and your chain CCing it, or if you're got enough damage to one-shot them with the lethality build, leading with R into Q1, so the RQ1 we talked about, into E as well, so no autos in between. RQ1 E, all very smoothly, cancelling the Q animation with your E to min-max your damage very quickly while they're CC'd. Then you can auto into Q2, auto into W. You can use W first if you need to block some damage after the CC drops off, but RQ1E is the main point for quick comboing, making sure you don't tunnel every time on R, hop, Q, hop, E hop. Sometimes you do just want to burst it very quickly with RQ1E and then doing the rest of your combo. Next up, we're going to be covering the matchups, and like I talked about at the start of this video, Ambessa is one of the best blind pick melee champs in the game at the moment, and an Ambessa with really high mastery isn't really that scared of many matchups, so I try to make this more of a game of killers that can apply to all of the brackets. If you apply enough mastery to matchups like Aurelia, matchups like Renekton, won't be that bad. Alright, maybe if you missed around King it can be a bit tricky, but all of these matchups are playable in some way. Now, Warwick being the hardest because the weakness of Ambessa that you need to keep in mind is extended range. So champions like Yone with Bork and Lethal Tempo really hard to deal with in the mid game, but the reason he's so low is the matchup itself isn't that hard. So the lane is okay, but champions that can just force onto you and beat you down is going to be very difficult, and Warwick can do that from level 1 pretty much, so it's going to be a really hard matchup for you to play against. Taking Ignite can help, and if you play against a Warwick that doesn't quite know his limits, maybe you can get away with it, and if you do get to Eclipse and you're not behind, there's a lot of room to shut him down. But Warwick is definitely, of course, the strongest melee laner in the game at the moment, and a really good matchup into Ambessa, so my advice is this would be a matchup where you get healing cut on your first recall, play very passive early game, start W like we talked about in the laning section, try to stay high HP. If you can get 800 gold recall, especially if you back the TP and he misses his base timer, then you can look to beat him up, but the early game is going to be very brutal, and especially when he's got Bork as well. If you don't have a lead, you do have to be very careful getting run down in the side lane. Now Irelia will get prio against you. You can win early trades, but once she has Bam Scepter, level 6, if the wave's on her side, she can just run you down, so be very careful. A big advice I could give for this matchup is try to anticipate where she's going to E and ulti. You can't really react to her E2 with a dash or her ulti, so try to predict where she's going to put it and dodge accordingly. Now, for the Twin event, this matchup is probably the most boring, as it's a visualizer. Ambessa is really good at short trading, beating your opponent down, and then re-engaging, but Trinity is going to go and go the wave. So the best time for you to play this matchup will be in the early game. Try to beat him down, try to get some good trades, and look for a kill early, because once he has Rav Hydra, good luck playing the game up against him. It's not going to be horrible. He can't guarantee advantage against you, but he can just neutralize you, and Ambessa does want to get hit early if you can, which is why I'd classify this as a hard matchup. Now Renekton, the biggest reason he's here, of course, is W will break your shield. So be very mindful of that, try to play around it. If he has good Fury, be careful, don't lead with shield. A good Renekton will just hold on to it, or they will use W straight away, and then dash away before the stun expires, so try to fight him while he doesn't have Fury. So 1 to 5, he can get prio, but you'll win trades, so try to get an advantage early game if you can. If you can chunk him down with short trades, and then maybe ult when he's low HP, there's a lot of room to play, so try to play aggressive early game in terms of trading. Don't try to get prio if the Renekton's good, but try to win your trades, and try to punish him early, and be very mindful when he has high Fury. You probably want to be more respectful, and try to space him and find him with abilities. Be willing to give CS if you have to, don't walk up and auto attack a minion, give him a W, try to farm with your abilities and put him down, especially if the Renekton is competent. Moving on to the opponent favored matchups. Now some of these matchups are harder at different sections of the lane. So champs like Riven and Pantheon can be really hard, especially level 1, they can beat you down. So I definitely recommend starting W, trying to buffer your auto attack through their CC, and get the grass proc and maybe even the shield bash as well. It can be really important. Just be really mindful that if you can get to Eclipse unscathed against the majority of champions in this list, you're going to do just fine, and there will be timings where you can win the matchup. So try to buffer your auto through CC, try to react to Pantheon W with your W, Riven Q3 of your W, things of that nature. There's some really hard range matchups like Aurora or Kennen. Try to utilize the bush as well. The dodge shield, of course. Just come out for CS and try to let them push you in early. And they're gonna be, and try to stay high HP. And then when the wave bounces back and you get level 4, if you have the minion and XP advantage, then you can look to force trades onto them. But a bad Aurora, a bad Kennen, they might make spacing mistakes where you can punish them, so keep that in mind, but bush control is going to be a huge part of these matchups. Now for matchups like Yone, where the early lane, you can look to take trades and bully him a little bit. Once he has walking full tempo, it gets very, very brutal, so be very mindful of the mid game, not overextending inside lane, as they can just kill you there. And for lane, just try to, I'd say my biggest advice for a lot of these matchups, is try to anticipate the abilities that you want to dodge, instead of relying on reacting to them. If Yone just rips a ulti or a Q3 onto you, good luck trying to Q and then dodge it. The animation's too fast. Same with a Kennen Q, a Rumble E. It's very hard to react to that ability and dodge it. You need to anticipate it when the Rumble walks at you, when you're walking towards a minion and he's going to E you. Try to already start your Q animation and your dash before he shoots his E. Same with the Yone Q3. Anticipate the abilities they're going to use that you want to be dodging and dodge ahead of time. A lot more replicable, I would say, than just mechanics maxing like you're the next Zeus trying to dodge everything. Just try to anticipate what they're going to do and pre-dodge in advance. Now for the top two, Kennen, Poppy and K'Sante. I'd say K'Sante is not that bad, unless K'Sante has extremely high mastery. The 1 to 3 is going to be your best bet, so try to win the lane early game. Try to take short trades, again anticipating its Q, dodging it, anticipating its W, pre-dodging it can be really important. It's a very skillful matchup, but I would give the edge to K'Sante as he is a little bit broken at the moment, and at level 6 he can just run you down, so you do have to be very mindful of that. Now for Poppy, of course the most annoying part, he can constantly, or she can constantly short trade onto you and poke you down. Her poking tools are a lot shorter cooldown than your W, so you do have to be mindful of that. It's a little bit easier after the nerf. It's the only reason I have her here. We're in a 1v1 custom game, I wouldn't mind the matchup too much. It's really easy for them to kill you in a gank with Poppy W, as if you get grounded, not only does your dash get interrupted, you can't dash during that grounded at that timer, so it's really easy for them to gank you, she can put you down, so if you're half HP and she can cancel your dashes, really hard to survive in that matchup. So my advice is when you're fighting him, if you feel like she's gonna W, again, a lot of this champion is anticipation, trying to anticipate when she'll W, and just use your ability to start dashing, just Q auto, don't dash away. It's going to be really hard to fight your instincts, especially if you've played the champion a bunch before, and better to try to fight your instincts and stand still. Use your abilities to blade out that W so that you don't get any extra damage and get ground. Now, as for the skill matchups, a lot of these matchups, spacing is very important. It's important in every matchup, but a lot of these ones especially, champs like Jax, champs like Camille, they can force onto you, passive, or Jax can force onto you, start auto here. It can be tricky. Darius as well. You need to be spacing it with your abilities and of course your extra auto range and making it really hard for them to do what they want to do. Again, anticipating is going to be important. Anticipate that Kled Q, that Cassio Q, try to pre-dodge it. Will be really good in this matchup. Also buffering your ulti through CC, so if you get an ulti buff with the Cassio ulti or the Jaxi or the Camille, that can be very vital for these matchups as well. Now, as for the Ambessa favored matchups, some of these can be quite tricky early game. Matchups like Volibear can beat you down if you're not careful, but once you get level 9 and Eclipse, you will completely destroy them if you're not behind. And even before that, around level 4, level 5, you can start to trade on them, and they can't really force anything onto you. Volibear can't really reach you with Q. You can just kite him away, even if he does a few points in Q. If you're spacing correctly, it's really hard for him to reach you. And because you take your knife, his healing is not that good. As long as you don't give him W2 and let him take the trade for too long, you're going to be fine. A lot of these matchups, they will win in a long trade, but you'll dominate short trades, and it's really hard for them to get long trades onto you. So a champion like Yone or Irelia, they can force long trades onto you. That's the big difference between them and a champion like Fiora. It's really hard for Fiora to lock you down and force that long trade, because you can just kite her and disengage. Wukong kind of can in a way, but I'd say his champion's just too old. Your kit's too strong. If he jumps onto you, you block all of his damage with W and beat him down. When he gets low, he doesn't really have any sustain. This matchup can be quite good for you. But even the champions in here that would beat you in a long trade, like a Volibear or a Set, they can't even get onto you, which is why I'd say it's favored for you. As long as you're playing your champion to a good level, really hard for them to force onto you. Just be really careful into champs like Set, into champs like Volibear, level 1 and 2. because level 4 when wave is bouncing back is when you can start to beat them up. Now, a lot of these champions, I'd say in the easy category as well, you can poke under tower around level 5, level 7 if you're doing well in your lane. So poking under tower, Abyss is one of the best bruisers at doing so, so definitely a skill you want to practice. Try to time it just as the tower shoots, then you're leaving the dashing away, you can always W if you need to, when they get long enough to grab the dive, while these matches can get there on their way. Because although Abyss can flip the wave bounce back, poke them down from the wave, freeze and go for an all-in, especially ripping an ulti, poking under tower and killing your opponent with a dive is going to be a lot more of a bigger advantage for you. So if you can do that up against a champ like a Gwen, a champ like a Gangplank, your lead is going to be a lot bigger than if you bounce the wave back, so don't be afraid to practice poking your opponent under tower and gaining a huge advantage, especially in the matchups that are favored for you. Next up, we're going to be covering the mid game. Now, the mid game on Abyss is very similar to a lot of other bruisers, where you want to be pushing in the wave on the opposite side of the next objective. So in this game here, Dragon's up next, so I'm pushing in top, looking to create pressure, but not over split push. You don't want to be trying to break the tier 2 or eat all the camps on the map, like you would on a champ like Garen or on Gwen. You just want to be keeping somebody stuck under tower and look for a proactive 5v4 team fight, either around mid by flanking with your ulti, or rocking up to Dragon or Baron and looking for the fight there. However, in this case, I did not want to fight the Dragon, we just had a fight before it, and now Galio doesn't have ulti. He was the most useful player on the team other than me. I did not want to fight without that spell, so I'm just pushing in Riven under tower and looking for a play around mid. So looking to flank here, and they are respecting me mid, couldn't get an angle, so straight back to top. You can see I've got a sweeper here, looking to sweep my way through, so they can't see me, push in the wave, make Riven answer, look for the play mid. If there's no play, back to side, push in the wave. However, here, you can see there was no angle again, push in top, you can see back and forwards, constantly looking for a play every single wave, not looking to waste time, trying to dive Riven or break the tower, pushing her under tower to make her unable to respond to me, and then look for a play, and that's exactly what we get here. It took 3 tries, but we did eventually get it. Most times it would only take 1 or 2 tries in solo queue, sometimes a bit more, as long as you're patient, and we're able to get the angle here. So get the kill.